The New York Jets are in phase 3 of OTAs, and there's quite a bit to talk about, even though they're just in shorts. What's up, guys? We're here on Jet Nation Live. Dylan Terraman, Chris Schubert. I'm going to intro you right away so I don't forget about you. A lot to talk about, even though we're in the dead season of football. No Glenn, unfortunately, tonight. He said he might call in. I sent the link. We'll see what happens with his work schedule. He's been a bit busy. So, yeah, jump right into it. Chris, how you doing?
Doing well, Dylan. I'm surprised you remember how to open up the show, seeing as I don't remember the last time you and I did a show together in some capacity. It had maybe the draft show. I don't even remember. That might have been the last time we've been together on one of these. But yeah, the Jets making news today with some signings, OTAs in full swing. A lot of news about the future of football with OTAs and training camp, and just a lot of odds and ends is the way that I would describe it for us to discuss tonight here on the show.
Yeah, I hit go live and I completely blanked for a second. I'm like, how do I do this? It's been quite a while since I've done a podcast, probably since the draft. We'll jump right in. The signing, the newest signing, running back Tariq Cohen. I put running back, but I feel like that's not going to be his position on the New York Jets in 2024. I would label this more kick/punt returner. And that was obviously alluded to by Robert Saleh himself at the podium today. He said Tariq Cohen is a dynamic playmaker. They're happy to have him for special teams purposes. They expect special teams to returners specifically to touch the ball 100 plus times in 2024, which is a huge upswing from last year. The Packers led the NFL with 31 returns in 2023. So you're looking at triple the amount of returns, potentially even more, for the special teams unit with these new rules. 1 year deal. Financials haven't been disclosed yet. You got to assume it's like a vet minimum. He hasn't played since, I think, the COVID year from Chicago when he tore his ACL, maybe even before that. Honestly, the last I heard from Tariq Cohen, or heard of Tariq Cohen, I should say, was on a YouTube video. If you guys watch like any Madden YouTube content, Kurt Benkert, former Packers quarterback, played a game of Madden with Tariq Cohen. And that's like the only time I was like, damn, Tariq Cohen, I completely forgot about that guy. Hey, now you're a New York Jet. So, Chris, what are your thoughts on the newest signing?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. We can talk about Tariq Cohen, the player, and then we can talk about Robert Saleh's comments today, because I think the more interesting piece of information came from that. But I'll start with Cohen. Listen, this is a guy who's only 28 years old. He has been through a lot, right? The torn ACL that ended his season, and then attempting to rehab and come back and be on the field. He tears his Achilles while live streaming his workout, and then misses even more time. He was able to get onto the Carolina Panthers practice squad last year, but I believe it was a hamstring injury that kept him from being able to make his return. So he's been actively trying to make a return to the National Football League since the torn ACL back in 2020. And this is a guy that we don't know what the ACL injury and what the Achilles tear have done to the productivity that he did have prior to those injuries. But this is a guy who has been brought in for one purpose and one purpose only. He is going to be in the mix to be a part of the return game for the New York Jets in 2024. I do not see a scenario where Tariq Cohen is in the running back room getting snaps or getting carries or getting touches in lieu of somebody else, right? Tariq Cohen was not signed, and carries are going to be removed from Izzy Benicanda or Braylon Allen or Breece Hall. That's not what's happening here. What the New York Jets have done, and this is where what Robert Saleh said today is the more interesting thing to me, is the New York Jets have identified that they think that 100 times during the year, they're going to get additional opportunities with these new kickoff rules to make game-breaking plays. And they want to have a competition to see who is going to get those opportunities, who they are going to give those 100 opportunities to. And the way I would compare it, Dylan, is in baseball, right? A position, if they play and they get 3 at-bats for 162 games, by the end of the season, you're talking 450, 500, 600 at-bats, depending on the player, depending on the caliber of the player. A team allocates those at-bats to their star player. Maybe they got a platoon. They find a way throughout the course of the 162 games to allocate those at-bats. The New York Jets are figuring out how they want to allocate these 100 touches. And they've got players in-house that they believe can be impact players there, but they're also taking a flyer here with Tariq Cohen, somebody who they think could be a difference maker. And I love this. I love a team identifying a new wrinkle, and they're not the only team. All the teams are doing this, but I love that Saleh came out today and say, hey, we think it's going to be close to 100 times we're going to have an opportunity to change the game. And we think this player can help us in that regard. Because, Dylan, I look at this and I say, if you can be, with these new rules, a top 10 team in terms of flipping the field off of a kickoff, do you realize the difference that could make? Do you realize when you shorten the field how much more likely you are to end up scoring points? And if there's one thing we know with this team, they've struggled to score points over the last couple of seasons. And so any type of edge that they can try to find to do that, to give themselves a shorter field, to put themselves in a position where, hey, maybe it's not going to be 7, but it can be 3 a lot of the time. That is an edge that a team over the course of 17 games can take advantage of. So do I think Tariq Cohen's got a lot left in the tank? I don't know. We truly don't know what he has left. Was not able to play last year for the Carolina Panthers. But I love the mentality that the Jets are taking here. And I have the numbers in front of me. Tariq Cohen in his rookie season back in 2017 averaged 22.4 yards per return in an era where you couldn't return the ball. 22 yards per return. Now, in 2018, it was down to 11 yards per return. In 2019, it was 11.5. But this is a guy that when he burst onto the scene was an impact player in the kickoff return game. So I'm very excited to see what Tariq Cohen can provide here during training camp and in the preseason.
Yeah, while you were talking, I actually just took down the subtitle of the thing on the bottom and I put it to kick return, punt return, because he's not going to play running back. I mean, you're joining a crowded room. Brees, Braylon, who we'll get into, Isaiah Davis, Izzy Abanikanda, and even Xavier Valade. Like, that's you're the 6th running back. You're not going to make the team that way. So I think they do have a purpose for him. And obviously it's just, now you just have to make the team and fulfill the role that they see. But I think it's going to be him, Gibson, maybe a little bit of Abanikanda as your return guys. With the new rules, I feel like they're going to want to go with a running back type of player. Even Malachi Corley could get on the field as a kick return, punt return guy. So it's really going to be interesting how they do it. What's up?
I think this is one of the easier ways for Isaiah Davis to make an impact for this team. I have a tough time seeing if he is not involved in this aspect of the team. I have a tough time seeing him getting touches throughout the course of the season, unless there's an injury. Because I think Brees and Braylon Allen are going to be your 1-2. I still think Izzy Abanikanda is going to be the 3. I think the Jets feel we took him last year. He had the growing pains. They're not going to give up on Izzy Abanikanda, I don't think, which is what made the Isaiah Davis pick a little bit of a question mark after you just took a running back with your previous selection. But I think Davis is one of those guys that is going to be in this mix. And again, here's the other thing too, Dylan, is what you're going to start to see is there might be a scenario where against a certain type of kicker, right? A certain kicker might kick the ball on the kickoff a certain way that plays more towards Tariq Cohen or to Davis or towards Xavier Gibson. There could be a scenario where, okay, we're playing the Patriots this week, and we know that with this kicker, they kick the ball to the left corner, and you're going to see all sorts of advanced numbers that are going to come from this of how teams want to deploy this. So I think we are just scratching the surface of how teams are going to utilize this new rule and this new element to the game. And so I'm really interested to see how this position battle, if you want to call it that, develops over the course of the summer.
Yeah, no, I certainly think it's going to be interesting to watch. And I don't think what we see in the preseason in terms of what teams put on film from a special teams perspective is going to be even close to what we see during the regular season. Like they're going to pull out all the stops and try to, I don't want to say exploit the rule, but they're going to find ways to like Mike Westhoff this thing, and like figure out the best way to put their team into a chance to succeed. So I'm glad that the Jets are like getting out in front of it at the very least and trying to like be a catalyst, because they have Brent Boyer, who's the top special teams coordinator, has been here forever. Like they love him. So like they're going to give him leeway and he came up under Westhoff, which is actually funny. So, you're going to have this special teams unit looking completely different preseason to regular season. It's going to be a fun, progression to see how it all takes off, and year to year just changes the whole game. And with that,
listen, I'm not trying to come on here on this podcast and try to sell everybody that Tariq Cohen is going to be a difference maker for the New York Jets in 2024. No. I think it's important for us to talk to everybody about what this move signals. This move signals the New York Jets feel as if they can make this a positive aspect of their quote unquote offense, it can be a difference maker. It can pay dividends throughout the course of the season. And so they are turning over every stone. They're going to take a flyer on a guy like Tariq Cohen, who they might feel still has some juice left in the tank to be able to provide them some value over the course of the season. It might work out, it might not. Who knows? But I like the way that they're approaching this of, hey, this is a new element to the season. Let's push the pedal to the metal and let's make this something that we can be the best at, because if you are the best at this, it can be a real difference maker in the middle. Could you imagine late in the game in the fourth quarter, you're down a touchdown, the opposing team just went on a big long 7-8 minute scoring drive to take the lead, and like that, Tariq Cohen, Xavier Gipson, Malachi Corley can break off a big 45, 50-yard return. You're now immediately inside the other team's 30-yard line with threatening to score to tie the game. Those type of plays are what the NFL want, and that can be a huge momentum swing for a team. So you can't just write this off and say, oh, we're just going to have the kick returners that we've had in the past back there. No, you have to go out and make this a part of your roster building for 2024, and I like the way the Jets are approaching it so far.
I certainly agree. And I think like the best way is like the difference between the minus 35 and the plus 40-yard line is huge in football. And like that's the margins that we're talking about here. Like you get a good kick return nowadays and you're at like the 32. Now, like with these new rules, you could be at like the 47 on the other side of the field. And like that could be just like a normal return if you get the right blocking, the right, kick in the right corner or what have you, So it's going to actually change the game for the better.
I'm sure we'll start to see throughout the course of the season, and we probably already have this data, and I haven't really looked it up, of the probability that you will score a touchdown based on where you start on the field, right? Yeah. And the more opportunities that you can put yourself into a plus situation to score a touchdown, that is going to pay dividends over the course of the season. Think of how many times we said, man, if only the Jets could have just gotten a field goal on this drive, or if they could have only just, if this one drive would have worked out. Well, guess what? You now have an extra tool in the toolbox to be able to give you an advantage throughout the course of the season. You want a way to be able to give your defense a bit of a break, give them a jolt? How about a big kickoff return after they just gave up a touchdown to set up the team in plus field to maybe tie the game or take the lead? Again, these are big momentum plays, and I'm here to tell you, the first time Scott Hansen on a Sunday takes me to a kickoff that is in the fourth quarter of a game that I've got some money on, and the kickoff's going the distance because of these new rules, I'm going to be throwing things in my living room.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be electric. It's really going to be like the ultimate spark plug opportunity for a lot of teams if they maneuver it the right way. And I think we're going to see a lot of copycat, like we do a lot of things, like offensively especially, but it's going to be interesting. And I'm really excited because the Jets have a top special teams unit as it is, for most metrics. So it's going to be fun. We can move off that. We can just go general OTA phase 3 takeaways. I wanted to stick with the running back room. We were talking about Tariq Cohen. Obviously, we don't think he's going to be a huge part as a running back, but somebody who I do think is going to have a role is Braylon Allen. Zach Rosenblatt of the Athletic, said that he easily sees him climbing as running back 2. I think when he was drafted, most Jets fans thought that way. I know there's some Izzy Abanikanda fans who think that it's more of a competition. I lean more towards Braylon was probably the clear-cut 2 when they drafted him, but now I really think it's true. I've kind of put together this like 2024 role for him. He's going to be the goal line guy. They did post a video of him through the Instagram, the Jets Instagram page. Aaron Rodgers gave him a little handoff. It looked like it was a red zone situation because Aaron Rodgers immediately put his hands up to signal a touchdown. And that just kind of got things going in my brain. I'm like, Breece Hall takes all those runs. Like he had the run against Miami that got down to the 1. He had the run against Buffalo in week 1 last season where Garrett didn't block and he could have had the touchdown, but he ran out of gas at like the 25. Hey, they didn't score a touchdown on that drive either. They got 0 points. So I think of those situations, and I'm like, that's where you call on Braylon Allen. And he's going to be the guy who's going to get you those gritty 10, 12, 15 yards when Breece did the 20-20 work, so to speak. So I think he's going to be the goal line guy. And then also to kind of mirror more like what they did in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers in his MVP seasons, I could see a situation, and I was just talking to Buffalo Jet fan about this. You don't have Mike Williams. You have Garrett Wilson, Malachi Corley, Breece in the slot, or Breece out wide, Corley in the slot. Then you have Tyler Conklin and Braylon Allen in the backfield. That's like your pseudo pony package, but it looks like 11 personnel on the field. It's a spread concept. And it's really intriguing because there's so many different weapons and you don't know who could get the ball for the Jets. You could do a bubble screen to Breece. You could do a bubble screen to Corley. You could hand it off to Braylon. So there's just so much we could do with him. And I think it's going to be clear cut by the time the season starts, but Braylon Allen is on his way to being running back too.
Yeah, that requires a level of creativity I'm not sure Nathaniel Hackett has in the back pocket, but we'll see. I love the optimism and I love what you're thinking.
Don't do that. I just went on a great rant.
Listen, I and this is not new. I'm not the first person to say this, and I think I've said it before on the show. Braylon Allen's role is going to be what A.J. Dillon was in Green Bay. That's what it's going to be. It is going to be Breece Hall is our Aaron Jones. Breece Hall is our guy that if we give him the ball, there's a very good chance that this could go to the house. This could be a house call on this play. But if we're going to give the ball to Breece Hall a lot of the time, we need a change of pace. We need somebody who's going to be a thumper. We need somebody who's able to keep our running game on schedule when we need to give Breece Hall a break, but also give the defense something else to think about. That's what Braylon Allen is going to be for this team. It's why I immediately, after they made the pick, said he's the RB2 on this team. He is so different from what Breece Hall provides, and that's what the Jets want this offense to be. It's why I thought it was difficult for Izzy to see the field in year one, because he's too similar. He does some of the same stuff. You need somebody who can provide a different look. Listen, the Baltimore Ravens are going to do this in a different way. Their two-headed running back monster is going to be Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Good luck figuring out how you're going to defend the thump that Derrick Henry provides and the speed, agility. If you blink, he's going to be by you in Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
The Jets are going to have a similar version of that, just in a more traditional sense with two running backs. And so that's why I think Braylon Allen immediately shoots up the board to be the RB2 on this team, because I think he provides the perfect complementary piece to what they are going to ask Breece Hall to do in year two. By the way, PFF top 10 running back Breece Hall for 2024. They had him ranked 7th amongst running backs going into 2024.
I feel like that might be a little low, but
all right. Hey, I mean, I'm just telling you, he was a top 10 running back.
No. I think the conversation for him probably starts at 2, maybe 3, but I think 7 would be the absolute.
All right. Let's play the game. No. We're going to play the game. We're going to play the game. Okay. Christian McCaffrey, number 1.
Number 1.
Derrick Henry, number 2.
Okay. Yes.
Jonathan Taylor, number 3.
See, I would have the discussion, but so for me, the discussion starts at 3, but I would probably lean Taylor. But the injury,
Nick Chubb at 4. Now this is now here. Just hear me out, everybody. Hear me out. I understand why you want to reward Chubb for everything he's done in the past, but he is coming off of just a brutal injury, and I just don't know if the production's going to be there early. Now, mid-December, if he's healthy, late in the season, I think you're going to see vintage Nick Chubb for the Cleveland Browns, where they're just going to score 17 to 24 points, and in the fourth quarter, there's going to be 37 touches for Nick Chubb, and you're going to be able to do nothing about it. But until that time, I don't know. Bijan Robinson, number 5.
Okay.
Now this one I have a problem with. Saquon Barkley, number 6. I'm sorry. Give me Breece Hall over Saquon Barkley. I know it's probably a hot take, but give me Breece Hall over Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, so I'd probably reorder those 6 before Breece in a different way, but I think they're all, other than Barkley, they're deserving of being in the conversation for sure.
And so I think you could go as high as maybe 4 or 5 for Breece. I think he could be. I think he's definitely higher. But again, you're talking about a guy who's coming off of a major injury, and last year, put up the yards, almost put up 1,000-yard season, coming off of an ACL injury. And
if somebody on the Jets sideline could do some goddamn math correctly, Breece Hall would have 1,000 yards.
Sure, fine, we can make those jokes, but this is the thing. Breece Hall almost had 1,000 yards in a year in which he was coming off of a major injury,
just rushing. Yeah,
right. No, coming off of a major injury. Mm-hmm. With the quarterback play that he got, everybody in the building knows what's coming. Everybody in the building knows they're running the ball because they can't throw the ball. He still almost rushed for 1,000 yards. And did you see the offensive line? They've got 4 new starters. 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen in week 1 of 2024 are going to be different from the week 1 starting offensive line in 2023. He still put up almost 1,000 yards. I'm rounding. He put up 1,000 yards. With all of those circumstances. So you're telling me an improved offensive line, another year removed from the injury, Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback, another year to at least gel with what Nathaniel Hackett's going to want to do offensively? I mean, come on. He was 7th best running back. I think we are shorting Breece Hall just a touch.
I truly agree, and I think Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall will have 1,400 total yards each. Obviously, Brees will be rushing and receiving. Garrett will be mostly receiving, but I easily see 1,400. And I know Brees got 1,400 last year, so it's like, oh, obviously he's going to get more this year, but there's also more mouths to feed that are talented as well. So it's going to be 1,400. Who's mad at 1,400 yards for two different players on your offense? So very excited for that. Um, we can just keep it right there. Aaron Rodgers dialed in. I think Connor Hughes is leading the hype train. He's the conductor right now. I see his tweets and I just can't. I don't care if they're in shorts, dude. Tell me he's going 13 of 17 with 3 touchdowns and like a nice seam route to Yeboah over Chuck Clark's extended arm. And they said that the coverage was perfect, but the pass was more perfect. Yeah, I'll get excited every time. I will fall for that. So I'm very excited to see Aaron Rodgers. Surprising, I guess, to some, he's targeting his tight ends. Yeboah being the most recent, to the point where Robbie Sabo said that Jeremy Ruckert might be in trouble. He had him as a stock down in one of his tweets. We're not there, so I can't.
I don't accept.
I would hope that that's not the case, right? Jeremy
accept.
Ruckert is somebody that we definitely want to see succeed in this offense. But hearing Yeboah doing well is not a bad thing either.
Listen, if that entire room takes a step forward this year, that's a great problem for the Jets to have. It is a great problem to have to decide between the group behind Tyler Conklin, right? Like that's a nice problem for the Jets to have. And listen, this show has campaigned for more Jeremy Ruckert snaps and opportunities over the past, season and a half.
Seriously.
So there's a little bit of a bias here on this show when it comes to Jeremy. But listen, if Kenny Yeboah can be the tight end too, you got Zach Kuntz on this team as well. Like, I just somebody else to emerge as a secondary option for this team. Listen, it is. I am being extremely even keeled because of what we went through last year. It is very easy to see all of the hype and excitement, and it's not uncontrollable hype. It is people just realistically reporting that Aaron Rodgers has looked good at OTAs and his offense has looked good at OTAs. It looked good at OTAs and preseason last year before Aaron Rodgers got hurt. So, like, I'm not surprised that we're exactly where we were. Now, maybe I'm a little bit, I can calm down a little bit because I was a little concerned about what Aaron Rodgers was going to be at 40 years old, but I still have the same questions, right? Him looking good in shorts at OTAs isn't going to change that. If he is the version that ended 2022, the Jets are going to have a chance. I just don't know, coming off of the Achilles injury, being 40 or 41 years old, where he's going to be. Guess what? I'm not going to answer that question until September anyway. So I'm excited to see that he is progressing. I am excited to see that he looks good. But let's see what happens in the middle of, October and November if he is starting to look like Father Time's getting to him, or if he looks like the 2022 or, God forbid, the MVP version of himself, the back-to-back MVP of 2020 and 2021, we're having a totally different conversation. But I think it's very easy to get excited. I still have my question marks about what he's going to be, and that's it. That's the big question mark hovering over this team. As he goes, this team's going to go.
Yeah, I certainly think if there's any time for optimism as a Jets fan, now is the time, when there's no football being played. The draft is done. We've analyzed all the guys that we have. We know the roster, and now we can just sit here and trash talk with Bills and Dolphins fans and say we're the best team on paper in the division. I feel like this is our time for optimism. So, like, I'm trying to knock away all the negativity, especially on the timeline that I see, but I also don't want to, get myself hyped up like last year. Like last year I was so hyped, and then just all the color drains from my face 4 plays in when Rodgers goes down. I don't want that feeling again. So I want to try to find a balance of being optimistically happy and like, oh shit, like we got to make sure we stay healthy all 17.
It does not take long when doing podcasts like this or writing content or tweeting. It does not take a lot when getting excited about what this team could be to immediately put myself back to that night. Like, it is, and again, listen, it's sports. I'm going to be fine. Like, life's great. It's fine. It's just a game. All the important caveats that I need to put on that, but I can put myself out into that living room when I was sitting there watching his Achilles snap. Like, I can put myself there. And so because that is still a fresh memory, and because I I'm already annoyed. It hasn't even happened yet. I'm already annoyed about the tweets that are going to come in on the Monday Night Football game on the fourth play, ahead of the fourth play. I'm already annoyed by them. They have not even been formulated yet. They piss me off. I just... the train has to leave the station for me to let the excitement hit me. Like when week 1 is over and we're doing our the recap show of the game and we're previewing the next opponent, and whether they win or they lose, Rodgers has got through the game healthy and there's actual like football stuff to talk about. Great. Yeah. But up until then, like I'm a ball of nerves right now. I'm nervous about the game and it's 4 months away.
Yeah. And like you mentioned all the tweets that are going to come down right before the fourth play. It doesn't help that the 49ers signed Leonard Floyd to a deal this offseason. So like I don't like that. Just keep him off the field.
Right. You got a Bosa brother staring you down on the other side. Like I'm nervous. I'm scared.
Yeah. And then the guy who literally, I mean, he didn't tear Rodgers' Achilles, but he sacked him for the play. So it's like, goddamn, like that's all a factor. Just don't let him run out onto the field holding the American flag. And I think we'll be fine. Do some new pregame ritual or whatever he did. We'll figure it out, but don't do what you did last year because we can't live through that again. All right, another offensive player, and then we'll switch over to the defense. Actually, I have 2 players at this position. Wide receiver, Garrett Wilson. We kind of touched on it. He's going to be a 1,400-yard receiver.
He's awesome. He's very good.
I was literally going to say the easy analysis. I'm happy Garrett Wilson is a Jet. We can move on. Like, it's so good to see his highlights. He's such a special player. And hearing him talk at the podium is so cool, too. Like, they're taking on the second, third-year guys. They're taking on such a leadership role, him and Sauce especially. So just super happy that he's a Jet.
What I love the most, and I'll go more 40,000-foot view here about when talking about Garrett. What I love the most is the way Garrett, Sauce, AVT, Jermaine Johnson, the first-round picks for Joe Douglas. Take the quarterback that will never be named on this show again, put him to the side for a second. The guys that are still here that were Joe Douglas draft selections, the poise in which they conduct themselves at the podium is not something that I think should go unnoticed and untalked about. The way these guys conduct themselves and the expectations that they hold themselves to, that is a credit to not only them as players, but to Joe Douglas and his staff as evaluators, because it is easy to draft first-round guys that don't carry that kind of poise, that don't carry that type of leadership qualities for a team that they could have very easily checked out already. Both of those guys, Sauce and Garrett, could have very easily checked out.
We were talking about Garrett trade requests potentially coming.
Right.
So
my prediction that I said before the offseason where I said I thought he would request a trade, I'm very happy to have been wrong there. But I thought for sure with the way it ended and the 2 years of this for Garrett that he was going to be frustrated and was going to ask to play someplace else. But that just goes to a credit to, I think, the way the Jets have approached this drafting under Joe Douglas, because it's not just about getting good players. They got the second corner drafted in the year they took Sauce, and they got the second wide receiver drafted in the year they took Garrett. They got the guys that they wanted because those guys fit what they wanted from a leadership perspective, and that's important. It's not just about football. It's the way you conduct yourself, and the Jets have really done a nice job in that department. I mean, the way Quinnen handles himself, he's not a Joe Douglas draft selection, but the way he handles himself, like that's a really important quality to have in your leaders and in your top players, and Garrett and Sauce are just A+ of A+ in that regard.
100%. It just makes it easier too when you have young guys who are looking up to guys like them who are only in their second or third year. Like Sauce even alluded to it in one of his press conferences that it's like, I'm old, but I'm not old. Like in the football world, I'm old and people are looking at me, and he's like, I'm still learning, but I'm also teaching the new guys. So it's cool that the new guys coming in are going to see that mentality, and they're going to see their successes and their accolades and be like, all right, damn, if I just do it like that, I could have that same success too. So it just breeds a good environment in the building. So it's definitely fun to see. The other wide receiver I wanted to touch on, and we kind of did a little bit before, was Mike Williams. Salah said there's no timeline on him medically. He said that's a question for the doctors that, casually step in front of the podium in front of the Jets beat every week to give a breakdown of our injuries. I don't know. I hate that question because it's like, We don't talk to the doctors. We talk to Joe Douglas twice a year, and if not, it's you. So like you have to provide the answers to these questions, I feel.
And it's not like Salah has been great at those answers anyway, where he'll tell you
And maybe
something's
that's
not
why
wrong with a guy, and then all of a sudden he's out for the entire season. Like, and we poke fun at that here on the show a lot, but Robert hasn't been very good at that. Like, he's come in front of the podium and say we're not concerned, and then 3 days later, like he's the player's out for 6 weeks. Like it happens a lot, and so listen, there is zero that we've heard to make us concerned about the way things are going for Mike. The expectation was that he could potentially be ready for the start of the season, if not, very early into the season.
Yeah.
The Jets would not have signed Mike Williams if they didn't feel like he would be able to be a contributor for this team in 2024. And with Garrett and with the drafting of Malachi Corley, who I think is primed to be in a big time role to start the season, they can take it on the slower side with Mike Williams.
Yeah, and that kind of brought me to my next point. Somebody in the comments asked for a Corley injury update. I heard it was not too serious. I don't mean to cut you off, but I think there's a lot of just like concern when stuff like this happens, obviously. But he came right back out. Like, he left with the trainers, and if it was serious, you wouldn't have seen him for the rest of the day. He came right back out, and that tells me that it was something they went inside. They're like, all right, we're just going to shut you down for the day. We're going to we're just going to take this day by day. We are not going to push this here in May. It's not even June. We're not going to push this here because it's May, and we'll see how you react to rest, whatever recovery plan they put him on. But listen, you get concerned when you see, and I want to make sure I quote Zach's tweet correctly, when he says, Malachi Corley left the field with a trainer earlier and just returned without his helmet. Like, you get concerned when you read a tweet like that. But he came back like that. Yes,
but he came back, and so I'm not overly concerned at this point.
Right. And I think coupling that into the Mike Williams discussion, if Mike Williams misses week 1, even if he misses week 2 and he's not really himself until week 4, I genuinely think there's a path where Corley is 3rd in total yards, because you're going to have to, he's kind of like Brees. You're going to have to factor in his rushing too. 3rd in total yards and 3rd in total touchdowns. I think he's going to be such a feature in this offense with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's living in the guy's guest house. You would think they'd gain some kind of chemistry that way, but I think he's going to be one of those types of players. Obviously, it doesn't help that he was like my draft crush, so I'm going to just exude all that confidence into him no matter what until he doesn't show it on the field. But I do think there's a path where he's 3rd in yards and touchdowns for this team, and it's honestly exciting.
Well, and they need him to be, right? They need him to be a major contributor to this offense. That's why they were so excited to get him. It's why they had him as their 4th wide receiver on their draft board heading into 2024. Like, he is expected to be a major contributor for this team.
Yeah. Then kind of just 2 small notes on defense. This is kind of older news, but like we said at the top, we haven't been on a pod in a while. Isaiah Oliver moved to safety. I think that kind of puts him in the strong safety 2 category behind Chuck Clark, returning from injury. Maybe they even see that as more of a competition with Clark coming back and not being 100% or 100% confident in him being the guy. And then it leaves you with Tony Adams and Ashton Davis competing for free safety 1 on the opposite side. I don't really have any thoughts on Isaiah Oliver. I didn't watch the film when we signed him. I just knew he was a DB from San Francisco, and I figured they'll find a role for him, and it seems like they have. It seemed like, according to Robbie Sabo, that it did something to JBC, Jarek Bernard Converse's role. I don't know if that necessarily means he's switching to cornerback or if he's just like pushed so far down the safety depth chart at this point that we're just probably not going to hear from him, because you also have Mr. Irrelevant Jalen Key from Alabama, and then you have the UDFA Jarius Monroe from, I believe, Tulane, and those guys were pretty, highly, I mean, not so much Key, but Monroe was definitely liked amongst a lot of Jets content creators. A lot of people liked him in the draft community. So there's kind of a crowded room of meh at safety right now.
Yeah, it's one of the position groups of concern for me. I've been talking about it a lot here on the show and in stories that I've written. It's a group where you have Chuck Clark coming off of an injury, you have Tony Adams, but you get any sort of injury to this group, and you don't love what you have behind him. You have Ashton Davis. You have now Isaiah Oliver, who's going to flip over to that side. Jarek Bernard Converse, I think, is a player that they think is a Swiss Army knife and can be utilized in multiple different spots along that secondary. Jalen Key is somebody that I think could be a part of this mix by the time summer is over. I think his ability in the run game is going to be something that the Jets are going to covet. His tackling is something that they're going to covet there. We saw how many missed tackles from the safety groups last year, the last 2 years.
Jordan Whitehead a lot.
I wasn't going to name him specifically, but yes, that was the major player that I was talking about. And so, yeah, it's a group I would love for them to add another veteran to that group. Somebody with just some pedigree, maybe some playoff experience, some championship level experience, playing on a winning team, playing on a winning culture. Like sometimes there's too much made of adding somebody like that to a position group, but I think like that group in particular could use somebody, and that's supposed to be Chuck Clark. But like Chuck Clark's a starter and he's coming off of an injury. Like, could we just get another insurance policy in there? And I'd feel a little bit better about that group.
Yeah, I certainly agree. And I feel like the Jets have put an emphasis on like finding a veteran leadership player, coach role type of guy at almost all the important positions, like tight end or not tight end, tackle, wide receiver. Like they're going out and getting guys that can teach the younger guys in the room as well. So it's kind of interesting. And I feel like safety is just not even looked at this by this team. They're just like, no, we're confident. I mean, they have good coaching and Tony Oden and Marquand Manuel, but I mean, I would feel more confident with like a Quandre Diggs. Obviously, Justin Simmons is probably the pipe dream at safety, but Quandre Diggs caliber player is like, that makes you feel a little bit more confident. Mike Clay had us as the number one team in his roster rankings that he grades on a 4.0 scale. And our safety room, I think, was a 0.6. So it was like third from bottom of the league. So to have such a good team and have one really bad position is it's not a bad thing, but it's like, let's shore it up a little bit.
I will say, I have started to do my AFC East position by positions. I did my quarterback one that I wrote for a story yesterday. I'm working on my wide receiver ones right now. You Jets fans, you're going to have to be patient with me, okay? Because I'm grading maybe a little bit harsher than you would like me to. But this is something that
anybody that listened last year knows you're hard on.
I was a tough grader, and you know what? Who ended up getting the last laugh when it came to how the Jets performed in 2024? Maybe not how I drew it up, but I was the one who said they weren't going to make the playoffs. So so who got the last laugh? I did. Right.
No,
and I still had to do. We still had to do all the shows. Still to do all the shows after they lost, and even though that I predicted them not make the playoffs, it was not enjoyable. It's not a fun time.
No, nobody wants to do that victory lap. Like, I said they were going to miss it for the 13th straight year.
Right. It was. I didn't enjoy doing that.
Yeah, and then do it after Zach Wilson for 16 and a half games. Like, nah, that's not the way. All right. So this one's a little bit of a weird topic. I'm sure everybody's kind of heard about it by now. And we don't have to go too far in depth because it's not a set in stone thing. But there was a proposal. I guess the NFLPA is working to finalize. This is a quote or a tweet from Tom Pelissero. The NFL Players Association is working to finalize a proposal to overhaul the offseason starting as soon as 2025, eliminating voluntary on-field work, which is what they're doing right now, in the spring in favor of a longer training camp ramp-up, with players reporting in mid-June to early July, per sources. So obviously how it is now, they do their OTAs right after the draft. They have phase 1 like immediately following the draft. Phase 2 incorporates the rookies, and now phase 3 is what they're doing now. And then they have 40 days off, which is like the cross your fingers and let's hope Dylan Donahue doesn't drive drunk backwards through the Lincoln Tunnel type of shit, And we got to just get through those 40 days, and then we come back and we regroup, and then we're into OTAs and training camp. And it seems like now they just want to eliminate what's going on now, at least from my interpretation of it, is they want to eliminate what's going on now and start in mid-June. So in the middle of that 40-day window, meaning the players would have a different set of vacation times, coaches, scouts, everything. Their timelines are all shifted in terms of what they do. And people are saying it's just a precursor to an 18th game, possibly extending the season longer. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm on board with all of the things that come along with the 18-game season, but I think ultimately more football for fans is a good thing. I can totally see it being harder for the players, coaches, etc. in the building to try to navigate through that, but I feel like it's something that the NFL is going to push to do no matter what. So I feel like it's going to be an inevitable thing. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, they like money. The NFL likes money. The owners like money, and so
we
they're
like
going
giving it to them apparently.
Right, and so they're going to continue to expand the schedule while it is still feasibly reasonable to do so, and so that they can make more money. When it comes to this new offseason proposal, I like it. There are two things that I think it requires. You are still, I think, going to need to have a rookie minicamp post-draft. I do not think you can walk into a scenario where you're going to draft guys in April after the last time they've played is potentially the latest is January if they played in the college football playoff national championship.
Right.
And then they're going to walk into an NFL locker room in June having never touched a playbook, having never been in the building, having never had, meetings with coaches and players and doing all of the stuff that you would do. And then in 6 weeks, ramp up to play in week 1. I just don't think that's feasible. With the rookies in particular, I think you need a syllabus week is maybe the fairest way to call it. Right. Like you need a getting up to speed period where they can sit with their position coaches. They can meet with the training staff. They can meet with the nutritionist. They can figure out where everything is in the building. They can do a rookie minicamp where they're out there practicing. They're working with the coaches. And then they can take time off. And then they can return with all of that knowledge, with that rookie minicamp in place, and then go to training camp in June. The interesting thing to me is if you're going to do this, we're going to 18 games and we're getting rid of a preseason game, right?
Sure. Which it's going to be said he doesn't even like at all preseason.
Well, I'm here to tell you that's a problem because you not only do you need it, I think necessarily for the quality of the games in the early stages, but if I'm the PA, right, and I'm looking at this from the union perspective, this would be my argument. You're getting rid of a preseason game. You are limiting an opportunity for members of our union that are towards the bottom end of the pay scale, that are towards the bottom end of the talent scale, an opportunity to latch onto a team. And that could cost jobs. That could cost money and opportunities. And that's where I think the pushback would be from the PA. So is the trade-off we expand the rosters? Is the trade-off that during the year there's more people that you can have on a roster and then you just activate, your 53 like you do now, but maybe you have a couple extra spots? I don't know what the trade-off is here, but the NFL's, if they go to 18 games and they get rid of a preseason game and they add a second bye, they're going to make enough money to where I think they can work with the PA for a trade-off. So I'm okay with it, but there are two things. Those are the two things that I would worry about the most.
Yeah, and I think your point about the expansion of the roster is actually like the route that makes the most sense, because how many times do you see, especially like teams that aren't in the playoffs anymore, they're using every single one of their practice squad elevations for like the last 4 or 5 weeks on guys that are playing quality amount of snaps because they either just don't have the bodies or they're out of it. And guys that have small injuries are just like, it's not worth playing on my sprained ankle if we're 3-14 or whatever,
Right.
So I think it is an interesting thing, but like you said, they do like money, and it is just going to be a matter of time before all those things happen. And we probably have regular season football from like August to almost like March. Like it's just going to be ridiculous.
So what they would do is by going to 18 weeks and adding a second bye, it would push the Super Bowl to President's Day weekend. And so the Super Bowl would be the Sunday of President's Day weekend. Well, so okay. And I understand why everybody else is on board, but I will just add my own personal anecdote. I work in sports talk radio. I don't care if they make Super Bowl Monday a national holiday. I'm going to be working regardless because it's the day after the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't care.
That just have no choice.
I don't care if you move it to President's Day. It doesn't impact my life.
Yeah.
I'm still working the next day.
That's fair. I think
speaking of days I won't be working, the day that the new NCAA football video game gets released.
Let's get into it.
So this is what we wanted to close the show with, to have a little fun. Because today, apparently, at least it's what it looks like, the embargo lifted for people who got an opportunity to play the game was lifted, and we learned a lot of information. There's a couple stories up on The Athletic about it. A bunch of people have been tweeting about it. I don't think, now I have it nearby, so I will show you. for all my nerds out there, I have the Starfield limited edition Xbox controller. That's how excited I was for that video game to release. Probably the most excited I've ever been for a video game release. I got the limited edition controller. It pales in comparison to the anticipation that I currently have for the new NCAA college football
We've
video.
talked about Starfield, so I know how excited you were.
I am so ready to go be the head coach at Tulane and take Tulane to the national championship. Mid-major Chris is so ready to just to go to the MAC, to go to the Mountain West. You name the the Sun Belt, I'm there, and I'm taking a team to the promised land. I have never been more excited for a video game in my life, and the problem is I tried to tamper down my expectations because it's an EA video game, and I know what EA does. They just throw all these fancy things at you, you get really excited, and then you get in there and the game stinks. But the embargo lifted today, and you have all these people who for months now have been saying, it's not like Madden, it's not like Madden, it's not like Madden. The embargo lifted. Those people have continued to say after playing the video game, this is nothing like Madden, this is nothing like Madden, it's a totally different game. I'm in. Deluxe Edition, Super Deluxe Edition, Ultimate Deluxe Edition, I'm there. I am there day one. I'm not working. I will be participating in the first online dynasty that would like my services. I'm in.
So on top of all that, are you going to be streaming? Because I know you did a little bit of streaming with the old NCAA.
It's possible. It's possible. It is certainly
I'm
on the
buy
table.
an Xbox. We got a co-op stream or something.
Here's what we got to do. This would be the ultimate win. If we can get Glenn to buy an Xbox and we have a Jet Nation online dynasty, now that's where things go to another level. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. And it comes out in July. We're like a little over a month away.
Mm-hmm. I saw all the different names of the editions that they dropped, and I saw that the championship edition, which is the highest version, also includes Madden, and I was like, I almost don't want to get it because I don't want Madden.
No, I don't want to give them the numbers that they can say this many people bought Madden. So I'm just going to buy a different version that doesn't include that, so they can't count me in the numbers.
Seriously, right? And my only other question, because it was EA, and I know how much Ultimate Team has become such a wave in these sports games, is they're not going to do a MUT or a NCAA Ultimate Team.
I got bad news.
Oh no!
There is going to be a college Ultimate Team now.
Oh, there's going to be some sweats playing that.
Now, two things about them doing a college Ultimate Team, and I want to let me just see here. NCAA 25 Ultimate Team. Let me just make sure I have the details.
Because now
correct.
You just have Madden Ultimate Team, but they were just before,
Now,
if you have a throwback legend, it's just somebody in the NFL.
No, that's fair. Yeah, there's if you get the deluxe edition, you get some Ultimate Team packs. Now, here's what I will tell you. The best Ultimate Team out there is the FIFA Ultimate Team, or excuse
100%.
me, EA Sports FC is what it's called now because they don't have the FIFA license anymore.
Oh.
That is the top tier Ultimate Team. I don't think there's anything that can touch what that mode, because that was the first one. They did it the best. They still do it the best. The close second is Diamond Dynasty and MLB The Show. And what MLB The Show does really well is you have all of the modern players who are currently playing with their cards, and they have special versions of those cards. But you also have the other stuff, the legend cards, the prospect cards. So guys who are really good prospects in the minor leagues who get diamond level cards. You have all that cool stuff. They can do this correctly. Now it's EA, so they probably won't. But they can do this correctly, because I'm here to tell you, I would absolutely love to build a team where I've got legend Heisman card Vince Young running around being my quarterback. And so there's a way to do it, and you can do it correctly. My concern when they first relaunched the game, because when 14 came out, we didn't have Ultimate Team. It was not a thing. So I was worried that more resources were going to be put into the Ultimate Team than there were the Dynasty. Now, that doesn't appear to be the case. So because of that, I'm going to give Ultimate Team a shot. I will be in the weeds.
Yeah, because I feel like 3, maybe 4 Maddens ago, they just went to hell with franchise. We've kind of capped out what it is. We're just going to put all our resources into Ultimate Team, and it's going to be pay to win. And it's only Ultimate Team, or you play online head-to-head. There's
and if it sucks,
co-op franchises with your friends that are a couple of seasons long at best, but you're not getting anything crazy out of the game anymore.
And if the Ultimate Team sucks, I still think the Dynasty mode is going to be the
where
creme
everybody
de la
comes
creme.
for. Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's going to be okay if they make it too micro transactiony. And they like that's what I love about FIFA Ultimate Team is it's not micro transactiony. It can be, you can definitely buy a good team, but you can also work at it. Same thing with
Yeah.
Diamond Dynasty. Like I play Diamond Dynasty a lot. I have not put a single dollar into the game, and I feel like I have good enough cards to play. So as long as they create that type of ecosystem, I think
Yeah.
I legitimately think if they didn't EA this thing, this could be the most successful game they've ever released.
Yeah.
They
No,
just
it's
have to
true. It's
not
really
EA
true.
it. They just have to not
Yeah.
EA it. And now it's tough because it's EA, but if they just don't EA it, it could be the greatest sports video game release of all time. It
Certainly
could
the
be.
most anticipated. Certainly the most
I mean,
anticipated.
I somewhere in the room, I don't think it's super handy, but it's somewhere in the room is the copy of 14. Like it's in the room somewhere. I know I have a copy of 12, NCAA 12 with Derrick Henry on the cover, literally right over there.
That's amazing.
So I'm ready.
We're here. Yeah, it's crazy that it's taken this long, but I'm glad that it's here. Any other thoughts before we get on out of here? We're almost at the 50-minute mark.
No, I mean, listen, there's obviously we're excited about the video game. We're excited about the Jets. It's an exciting time to be a football fan. This is where everybody has optimism. This is where everybody is spending their time in the summer getting ready for their team. And it's just, I love the excitement. I love where we're at right now. And hopefully we can continue that throughout the course of the summer months with the content that we produce here on the show, because it's even if the Jets aren't the team that's hoisting the Lombardi Trophy at the end of 2024, 2025, all I want to say is we had fun, right? I just want to have fun. I did not have fun last year. Last year was not fun. Last year was not enjoyable. If the Jets went 9-8 this year and the games were competitive and them making the playoffs came down to the wire, that's fun. Being out of it in October, in November, not fun. And so I just want this season to be fun, because I think that the type of content that we're going to be able to produce, if this team is fun, is going to be a good time.
Yeah, well said. And I think this summer we're probably going to have to bring back the summer rankings. We're going to have to add Glenn so that we can have a tiebreaker, or maybe just a full consensus on some things. But I think it'll be nice to have a third, data group from Glenn into that sequence, because it's going to look a lot different. I mean, last year I think we had the Jets both in the third slot in the AFC East. Obviously, it didn't look like how it looked, but I don't know if that's the case this year. At least on paper, we love to have the argument that we're the best team, but I think this year it's going to look a lot different. So bringing back summer rankings will be fun. And yeah, I don't want to be talking about college prospects in the weeds until like Christmas. Like,
no, this is how I want our college prospect content to be during the season. We're doing a full preview, and at the end we go, oh, I watched this guy this week. He was a lot of fun. And then that's how the show ends. The show ends with just us naming two names, and then we just hit the end button. Like, that's what I want. I don't want it to be 15 minutes into the show. All right, well, we're going to break down quarterback prospects for the New York Jets in 20. Like, I can't. I can't do it.
It's happened so many times with Glenn and I. Were like, do you want to recap the game? No, it's like Wednesday. We know what happened in the game. Let's just talk about what's coming up and then go into prospects.
I can probably produce the text messages or the DMs where Glenn and I decided on doing a show, and he said to me, I don't want to talk about the game. Like, I just don't want to rehash this. And but we did it because that's what we have to do here. But it was not a good time.
Yeah. Hopefully there's not. I mean, favored in 14 games, you would hope that there's not a lot of those type of
games. Favored in 14 games. It's crazy.
Yeah, with the over/under win total in most betting sites at 9.5. Like,
it's wild.
This is like 2009, 2010 level hype, and I was too young to even like remember what that fully felt like. So I tweeted out the other day, this is probably the best team we're looking at in the summer of my entire lifetime. So it's really exciting for young.
Yeah, this
Jets
is better
fans.
than last year's team. This is better than last year's team
100%.
Going into the year. 100%.
I was more excited last year because obviously I'm a little bit cautious this year, but no, This is fully a better team. And like I said, I'm excited for the young Jets fans, but I'm also excited for the older Jets fans that have been around for so long, because like now they have something to be way more anticipated for. So it's going to be exciting. Hopefully we'll be back with Glenn next week. If there's any news, maybe he'll hop on and do a breaking show. We appreciate everybody tuning in and supporting. Like, comment, subscribe. Maybe throw in the comments below some of the teams that you'd want to see Chris upgrade, I guess, in NCAA. Give him some ideas. Group of 5 schools, no Power 5 schools. So no Pac-12, or there's no Pac-12, no SEC.
Imagine suggesting a Power 5 school to play in,
Yeah, the mid-major
NCAA.
Chris, yeah.
Imagine.
Give him a Power 5 school, and I'm sure he'll take it into consideration, and maybe we'll convince Glenn to buy an Xbox, and we'll all hop on and have some good times. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Subscribe if you're new, and we'll catch you next time.